Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting session of Education USA Ghana Facebook Live session. If you have followed us for some time now, you will realize that Education USA focuses on helping everyone to research on US colleges and universities. We help you to know how to fund your studies in the US. We guide you through the university application process. And once you've gained admission to a US institution, we give you information on the visa process. And ultimately, we take you through a pre-departure orientation before you get to the US. This evening, our focus is on Vanderbilt University. It's one of the prestigious universities in the US. The good news is that we have both undergraduate and graduate Ghanaian students who are either at Vanderbilt or have completed Vanderbilt to share their experiences with us this evening. My name is Marilyn Owusu. I'm an Education USA advisor based at Education USA Kumasi. I'm joined by my colleague Bernice Afuti, who is the Education USA advisor at the US Embassy in Accra. Throughout this session, please type in your questions so that we can address them for you. But now I'd want to turn over to our wonderful panelists so they can introduce themselves to us.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Kweku. I grew up in Kumasi. I went to Vanderbilt, got my master's in economics, class of 2014. Since Vanderbilt, I spent about 7 years in New York, trading emerging market debt for ICBC Standard Bank. So outside, beyond banking, I like to travel. I love street art, photography, and Nashville is still one of the places that I love to visit in the US.
Hi, my name is Jonas. I'm a rising junior at Vanderbilt, double majoring in sociology and medicine, health and society. And I went to Maoli School. I studied science. Yeah, and outside of school, I'm mostly interested in marketing, so I'm kind of gearing. It's part of my future plans to go there, to go into that sector, and also, yeah, that's basically it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Oreku Asari, and I'm a rising senior at Vanderbilt University. I'm studying civil and environmental engineering. I grew up in Accra. I went to Persec. I studied science there, and yeah, much like Kweku, I also enjoy traveling. I enjoy eating out a lot. I love soccer, and I like to describe myself as a jack of all trades, trying to be a master of all. And so I've been putting my hands at different fields. I sometimes find myself in fields of accounting. I've done some software engineering internships. I've done some research in school. And so, yeah, I like to be all around, all knowledgeable.
Yeah, and I'll go at the end. My name is Kwabena. I'm actually Kweku's brother. We both have the privilege of attending Vanderbilt. I studied economics at Vanderbilt. Prior to that, I studied finance at Texas Southern University. And then prior to that, I actually went to Prempeh College, and then I studied business. We've both basically done the same thing, which you guys will probably find out as we go through the section. Right now, I work at CoStar. I'm a consultant in the data analyst firm, mostly dealing with hospitality data and then real estate data. On my downtime, I like to enjoy playing video games and hanging out with friends and going out mostly.
Thank you, guys. It's going to be an amazing session. It's the first time we've had two brothers going to the same school joining us. So your experiences will really enrich this program. Well, Vanderbilt is a dream school for many Ghanaian students, but very few Ghanaian students gain admission. I want to ask you, what makes this school so special? I'll start with Kwabena.
In terms of what makes the school so special, it's a selective few that actually go there. So once you get into it, that prestige of actually attending Vanderbilt comes with that. Once you're actually in the school, what you don't know actually until you get into the school is once you get into the school, it's a lot of work to actually maintain your grades. The classes are much more difficult because it's on par with most Ivy League schools. So you would have to kind of settle down and study. But then there's also the fun side of it where you get to go out, hang out with friends. Vanderbilt, the where it's situated in Nashville is mostly in the Midtown section. So that is mostly around the fun environment. So you also actually get to experience other stuff besides studying.
That's good to hear. Oreku, I'll ask you the same question. But before that, you said you were a rising senior. Explain that to us.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's pretty much like going into fourth year if you would go into like University of Accra, Tech or anything. So it's freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, and then it's the same thing: first year, second year, third year, fourth year. So I'm going into my fourth year, and for Vanderbilt being a very special school, I would say it's two things for me. From the undergrad side, like Kwabna said before, yes, once you get into the school, you realize that classes are hard and you have to sit down and study. But then there's not this sort of competition among students that you find in other Ivy League schools. In Vanderbilt, professors want you to succeed, your mates want you to succeed. So there's all this collaborative learning going on in there. And also for undergrads, in most schools, you don't really get the opportunity to do research as an undergrad. But then I remember I started doing research in my second year, and you won't get that in even Ivy League schools. So I think that's also one thing that makes the school very special.
Thanks for your comments and for saying so much about your school. I like the fact that you said, even in Ivy League schools, you've not been there. So what makes you feel that that's not done there? But anyway, that's what we do when we love our school so much. Joe, I'll come to you. What makes Vanderbilt so special?
Just like both Kweko and Oreku said, like getting in alone is like makes you feel, I don't know, just gives you that chills, which makes it like very, very special. But I would say mostly it's because of the people here. I've really met like really, really amazing people here who are willing to go at great lengths to support you and ensure that you succeed in your whatever field you're interested in. And also, Vanderbilt is the place Vanderbilt is situated. I also feel like makes it really special. You kind of get the feel of both, like the urban life, and also get the feel of like the rural life if you're into that. So I think that makes it very, very special.
All right. Kirku, you are you've graduated from graduate school, which is a master's program. What makes Vanderbilt so special?
So in terms of what makes Vanderbilt special, for me, it's the fact that when I got into Vanderbilt and I reached out to alums of the same program that I was getting into, they were very super helpful in terms of, basically communicating what I needed to expect, what Vanderbilt would offer me. But also when I myself got, on campus, one of the things that, for me, made Vanderbilt very special was, the campus is gorgeous. That's one. The school is great on academics. The other thing is that Vanderbilt is in the SEC. So if anyone that comes to the US and it's like your first introduction, say you get into undergrad and it's your first introduction into life in the US, Vanderbilt being in the SEC has a great football team, great, basketball, tennis that, they've won championships and stuff. So it gives you also a chance to explore like US sports. You get, on the weekends, go out with your friends to the stadiums, to the games, to cheer on. And then the other thing that really for me made Vanderbilt very special was I remember just telling people, oh, I'm going to school in Nashville. And everyone's like, what school, Vanderbilt? So that for me, just outside of the state of Tennessee, being the #1 school in the state of Tennessee, but just nationally within the US, it's a great school. I got to notice, how special the school was when I obviously worked on Wall Street in New York. You meet bankers from Goldman, from Morgan, who have gone to Vanderbilt, who, if you're looking for new opportunities and stuff, they're happy to connect you within the network. So for me, that's what truly makes the school special, is the students in the school, the alums. If once you're out of school, if you need to call an alum and say, hey, I'm working on this, I'm trying to start this thing in Accra, I'm trying to start, alums all over are willing to help. So that's what truly makes the school special.
That's good to hear. As you were saying it, I could see everybody nodding their head. Wow, you guys love your school. That's good. Anyway, the application process is very tedious and not everybody is successful, as I said initially. What made you guys successful? I'll start from Moreku.
So for me, I would say I think my essay really helped a lot, because my essay, I took the SAT and my scores were decent. Nothing majorly exciting like 1600s or anything. But then, yeah, I think my essay really helped a lot. For other people too, I think some of them do share the same sentiment, because I remember working with Kweku on this high schooler who applied last year, and because of the COVID, most schools didn't take SAT, ACT scores, and so most of them were just applying with their essays. And Kweku and I were working on this high schooler's essays, helping guide him through the process. And I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Kweku confirm later, but I know he got in. I think he got into Vanderbilt. So I think the essays really play a huge part in showing, communicating to the school what you bring into the school, and yeah.
I'm happy you said that. As advisors, when we get people coming in to the office to search for schools, after they've done their research and you're asking them to write their essays, and you tell them that for most schools, even 12 drafts are not enough. You'd have to get to write. You can tell from their faces they don't just want to hear that. But I'm happy you've emphasized on the essays. And I'm hoping those watching us are keeping this in mind. Joe, I'd want to come to you.
I think it's similar to your real quiz. I didn't really have, I had decent grades. Like everyone in Vanderbilt, when you get in, you realize your grades really don't make you special. So I think it's definitely my essay. I took my time to kind of draft my story, and I kind of focused on telling stories that I knew would be only only be my story, and someone can really talk about it. So I didn't focus on um, general achievements or anything. I really talked about something about myself. I kind of marketed myself through that. So I think that was what made me stand out. Yeah.
All right. To come back to your words, you feel everybody's going in with top grades. So the top grades isn't really a big issue. That is what separates you from the others. And you feel the essay did it for you. I like that. Partner, what's your take on that? You went to graduate school too.
Yeah, I think to their sentiments, like the essay really plays a big part, because initially when I got into my class, I realized most of the people that actually took the GREs there, especially the international students from China, they mostly got like all the math questions correct, probably missed one or two. And then the English part, they maybe fumbled a bit, but mostly was the essay part. And then also kind of reaching out to the advisors prior to actually joining. So I actually talked to some few advisors in the school, and they also told me like maybe focus on the essay, try and make it unique. I remember, I think I was in contact with them 2 months prior to actually applying and stuff. So also maybe reaching out ahead of time is also helpful.
I like that. We normally tell graduate students that they should send emails to the schools and wait to get responses from the school for them to know that indeed the schools are interested in them the way they are interested in the schools. And you've just confirmed that for us. Thank you. Kweku, what made you get in?
Yes, so for me, I mean, I think it's reflecting back, I'll be honest, for me, I'm not sure what got me into Vanderbilt, right? Because for me, it was my top choice school at the time I was applying. The essays, I work, on the essays, but I think for me, it was being more well-rounded. So just beyond the essays, beyond my GRE scores, beyond academics, just showing that I had a broad, interest outside of the classroom. So I think that really for me helped. And having worked with admissions and recruiting, international students over the last couple of years since I've been a graduate. And then, I've worked with minority students in New York and stuff like that. So one of the things that I see when I go back and I write, alumni interview updates on, once I've had an interview with a student, prospective student, and written back to them, it's highlighting essentially what the person brings to the school, what they bring to the fabric and culture of the school beyond just the academics. Because again, like my brother also said, I mean, we did the same program actually at Vanderbilt economics, and you'll notice the students, a lot of international students would ace, GRE on the math, they might fumble on the English, but they also come with a broad area of interest. Like I had a classmate who played the drum, and she would, play drums she had a drum set she would play like on Fridays, right? So that made her unique. That was what she added to our class. So I think just beyond the academics, the essays, making sure that you're active outside of the classroom really, really adds to your story for Vanderbilt.
Thanks. I'll ask this question. You've talked about the essays. It's in broad terms, but specifically, if somebody is applying to Vanderbilt, I'd want you to describe the application process for me so that they can appreciate it. And Joe, I'd want to start with you. Describe the application process to Vanderbilt for us.
All right, I think Vanderbilt had both early decision and regular decision. And the early decision is in two parts. I think the first round in November and the second round in January. So if Vanderbilt is your first choice, you choose ED. If it's not, you go regular. And in that process, I think you need your transcript, what's the results, SAT. I think SAT 2 is not required, but I think a lot of people take it. So it's advised if you have the means, you should take that, and your transcript, and I think 2 teacher recommendations and your counselor recommendation. Then plus, I think Common App essay, and I don't know if they've changed it, but my time it was extracurricular activity essay. So those are the requirements you have to you need to apply for admission here. And yeah, I think that's the whole process. So if you are doing ED1, you have to submit everything by November 1st, I think. And if you are doing ED2, it's January 1st or 2nd. The regular 2 is the same deadline. Then you'd have to wait till decisions. And also, some students get the opportunity to be interviewed. I didn't. So yeah, that also plays a role.
Thank you. All right, well, since you're also an undergraduate student, just add to what you think is extra. If it's okay, you can confirm it for us.
I'd say Vanderbilt has the Ivy League status, but then the application process for Vanderbilt compared to those are like, Vanderbilt is one of the easiest I've seen. There's 2 essays, and so I feel like if you have the scores, if you think you have a very unique essay, if you are well-rounded, like Kweku said, you shouldn't hesitate to apply with just 2 essays. Come on.
Great, but were you asked to add transcripts and teacher recommendations?
Yeah, definitely. They ask for all of those, and I think I do remember meeting one of my admissions counselor, and I was standing with the other Ghanaian who got in my year as well. And I remember her highlighting some specific words he used in his essays, some things like the teachers did say about him. And so all those things do play a part. And like they do read all of those essays. You might think they don't think this is a huge school with a lot of applicants, but then they do read everything. And so that's why it's advisable to put your time in.
Thanks. You've helped us to understand the application process for the undergraduate program. I'll come to the two graduate students or alumni of the school. Kweku, I think I'll start with you. How was the graduate application like?
So the graduate application was straightforward. You needed a GRE scores, you needed your transcripts, you needed recommendations as well, and then the essays. The essays were an integral, like a key part of the application process. I don't recall if there was anything special that I'm missing of the list, but for me, one of the things that I did outside of just the requirements was making sure that I reached out, just like my brother Kwame said, just reach out into current advices and stuff, just to make sure that in applying, making sure that I either if I had to retake. I remember retaking my GRE, so I had to retake my GRE to make sure my scores, I boosted my scores to be competitive.
Okay, let me ask you this before I move on to Kwabena. You're saying you retook your GRE. Doesn't mean you submitted the first course and then sent the second course, or you didn't send the first course. You waited till you improved on it before you sent it.
So the school, well, given us, and which is also key when you're applying, is reaching out into the advisors. So given I was in touch with the advisors, I was able to hold off my first score, which was lower. And then once I retook it, submitted the newer score in, and which was what they used off in addition to the transcripts, the recommendations, the essays, and everything else I submitted to make my admission decision.
All right, thanks. Kwabena, can you add a bit more, or he said everything?
I think he covers mostly everything. I think with him, similar to me, I also took the GRE twice. But with me, I sent my first course in, and then I updated it later with my second course. But mostly, I think he said everything. You have to get your transcripts ready, your letters of recommendations ready, and then of course your essays have to be on point.
Thanks so much. Let me ask this. Most students who come in are not too sure how many schools they should apply to. Sometimes we have people applying to as many as 20 schools. Sometimes 2 or 3. As Education USA, we normally recommend that apply to at least 4 schools so that you can be sure you can get to a school. But I also ask you to share your experiences with us. And I think I'll start with Kwabena. How many schools did you apply to when you're applying to Vanderbilt?
I saw my brother laughing because he knows what I'm about to say. I shouldn't be like the role model for this question because I only applied to 3 schools. I remember applying to London School of Business, Vanderbilt, and I think Georgetown. And I got into London School of Business and then Vanderbilt, and I decided to go with Vanderbilt. The reason why I shouldn't be a model is he initially told me to apply to, I think, 6 or 8 schools. But when I was doing the letters, once I got to, I think, the 4th one, the application process was over for the 4th one. And before I realized, most of the application process ended, so I only got into 3. So I would say apply into more schools, probably 6 preferably, and then make sure you're actually keeping up with the deadline and don't be like me and don't wait till the last minute.
Thanks for being honest with us. Kweku, how many schools did you apply to?
For me, I applied, I think it was 5, because the funniest thing is I knew Vanderbilt was my top choice, and I really wanted to get in, and but I wanted to have options. So whether it's in terms of funding or other options, so I think I ended up applying to 5 schools. I got into, I think, all 5 or 4 of them, and I got financial aid packages at the other ones. But I mean, once I got to Vanderbilt, it's a no-brainer.
Thanks. Oreku, you applied for the undergraduate program of Vanderbilt. How many schools did you apply to?
I think I applied to 8 schools. I knew I wanted to do engineering, so I remember like looking up a lot of engineering schools, going through the common up requirements for each of these schools, and I was being selective. I was picking the easiest, so those with the easiest applications, those with 1 or 2 essays. So I think it cost me, but then in the end, I got into Vanderbilt. So I don't know who's laughing now.
That's good. Jonas.
I had an antivirus. I did a process with antivirus. So I think I had about 20 schools on my list, but I did early decision to Vanderbilt. So when I applied my application, I later added, I think, 8 more. When my decision came and I got in, I just withdrew from the rest. And I didn't continue with the application any longer. So
When you say you work with Auntie Bernice, it means you work with Education USA Accra.
yeah.
Okay. So the early decision paid off for you.
Exactly.
But otherwise, you'd actually have done 20 schools. Man. Well, having said all that, I want to ask you guys, be honest, was Vanderbilt the best decision you took? Who will go first? Kweku, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, was Vanderbilt the best decision I took? I think I would absolutely say yes, because it was truly two years of my life that I enjoyed living in Nashville. My brother still lives in Nashville, so I still get to go back home. And in terms of just the academics, the friends that I made, I made friends in my class. We had about 30 students from, I had a classmate from Afghanistan. Up until Vanderbilt, I had never met anyone directly from Afghanistan. So for me, that was, the exposure, the breadth of the network, the breadth of the friends that I have. And then post Vanderbilt, I mean, trust me, when I worked in New York, I didn't have to, you just say, oh, well, I went to school in Nashville. Oh, okay, good. So it helps in interviews, it helps in making introductions. I've had that exposure. So yeah, I mean, in terms of being the best decision, yeah, absolutely yes.
That's good to hear. Kwabna.
In terms of being the best decision, I'll add on to what Kweku said. In terms of networking in school, you meet a lot of people from different backgrounds, different diversities, which kind of helps build your network as you move on. I met friends from all over the world in my program because it was mostly centered around global economics. So I met people from China. I've never had friends from China prior to actually attending Vanderbilt. In terms of in the workspace, I remember like my first week when I got into work and they asked me what school did you go to? And I said Vanderbilt. Everyone presumed I knew what I was talking about. So they would kind of like keep quiet and listen to you in meetings and stuff. I mean, it kind of helps build your confidence as you kind of go through the workforce as well.
That's good. Eriku.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was the best decision. I mean, I have mixed feelings about the school, but then it was definitely a top decision for me. I love Vanderbilt. I love the friends I've made there. Like networking as well. Undergrad, there's Greek life, and so you get to meet other people, other alumni, and higher places. You have all those connections at your hand, and that wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't gone to Vanderbilt. So yeah, I'm very glad I did choose Vanderbilt.
I like your honesty that at some point it did it for you or you're still enjoying it. But that's good. Jonas.
I would say based on the stuff I considered like important to me when I was applying, I would say it was the best decision I made, because I kind of the things I was looking for, I got them here when I arrived. Yeah, but yeah, the school it's big, so like there are stuff that they need to work on. But yeah, it's there are minor stuff, you don't have to worry about it. If you are looking for great academics, like exceptional opportunities and stuff, I think yeah, Vanderbilt is the best school.
That's good to hear. Well, you've all sort of mentioned your majors one way or the other. Um, but I want to ask a specific question for somebody who's just joining us. Um, for those of you who are still in school, which is Jonas and Oreku, what are your majors? And upon hindsight, I mean, if you had to choose a different major, would you choose it? I mean, Jonas, you may have the opportunity to change it now, but for Kweku and Kwabna, I'm going to ask you all these questions. I want you to, the same questions, I want you to think about it. What were your majors? And then if you were to change it at some point, would you have changed your majors? I think I want to start with Jonas.
Okay, so I'm a double major in sociology and MHS. That's not what I started with at Vanderbilt. I came in with, I think, biomed, biomedical engineering, and it wasn't for me. I didn't like any of the classes I was taking at the time, so I changed it to something else. I think I did economics. I told myself I was doing economics for one semester, and I didn't want to limit myself there, so I changed it again to sociology, and I added MHS to it. So yeah, I've been changing my majors almost every time. And if I had the opportunity to change, maybe I'll add something else to it, but maybe modify it to suit my interest. Yeah.
I like the way you're saying it. So the flexibility and the opportunity to explore, you've really done that and done it very well. That's good to hear. Oreku.
So unlike Jonas, I came in civil and environmental engineering, and I'm still civil and environmental engineering. Would I change? No. I enjoy what I'm doing. Um, Even with civil and environmental engineering, you still get to take so many classes you think you'd find fun. I've taken Chinese, which is something I'd never thought I'd take. I don't know why, but then yeah, I can say I speak Chinese, and so yeah, there's that flexibility to change any and every time. I know someone who's already graduated and he changed his major and even in his third year. So they give you that flexibility to change whenever.
All right. That's good. I was going to put you on the spot to speak some Chinese, but I think I'll let you off the hook for now. That is good to know. Kwaku, tell us, what was your major? Would you have changed it upon hindsight?
Well, so my major was economics, and yeah, would I have changed it in hindsight? I would probably, for me, I would say yes, maybe, because I would have switched to maybe doing a master's in finance. Because one of the things for me I learned in my first semester was that even though I'd taken economics classes in undergrad as part of my finance major, like it didn't prepare me for my first semester. And if I'd taken a master's in finance, I would have probably done okay. But not to take anything away, Vanderbilt still allowed me to, to take my elective classes outside of the economic school. So I took all my elective classes in the business school, which for me was a breeze. I don't know why those guys go to business school, but yeah.
That's good. That's good. Kwabna.
Yeah, for me, I took economics just like my brother. I actually applied to finance program and I got a late decision that I actually got accepted, but I already accepted the economics and they already given me a tuition funds. So I actually took economics. In the first year, I regretted taking economics because of one class. I think it was econometrics. I nearly actually decided to try and switch, but actually kept with it. And then the second year, as Kweku said, they give you the flexibility so you can take elective classes, which I took most of them in the business school. But then also they also give you another, I think I don't know if it's for undergrads, but for grad school, they give you the flexibility to audit a class where you pay, I think, $20 and you actually sit in the class. You actually do everything that has to do with a class, do the homework, do every single thing, but you don't actually get a physical grade for it. But then you can it's actually on your transcript that you actually took the class and you passed the class. So that actually also helps a bit too. Yeah.
That's nice. So that even though you were an economics major, you could have sat in a psychology class just to take the class and learn about psychology.
I actually did sit in a psychology class.
Oh, you did? That's nice.
I actually did sit in one, yeah.
Because that's the beauty of US education, where there's so much flexibility and you can learn everything. And I'm happy you've all shared your experiences so that those of us listening, you can know what to do at what point. And it helps you to appreciate the flexibility of the US system. Well, financing our education is a big deal for most Ghanaian students. In fact, most people who walk into Education USA offices, the first thing they would ask is, can we get a scholarship? Even though we don't give the scholarships. But I want to find out from you guys. Vanderbilt is a very expensive school. So how did you do it? I'm going to start with Jonas.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's an expensive school. I think my freshman year I got I got what I requested for, and they were generous with that. But yeah, if you end up deciding to come to Vanderbilt, you would have to make a plan, because as you move forward, the financial aid changes, so you really have to have backup plan to support your education. Yeah, personally, I think there are opportunities here to support you, to kind of like help you generate funds if maybe finances are not really that great at home. And there are also people here to kind of help you out with any problem you might face. For instance, I think last fall my professor was helped me kind of like look for resources for me to help me afford my education. So yeah, that's basically it.
Wow, you had your professor actually look out for you and help you get extra funding. I love the school. No wonder you guys are making so much noise about the school. I mean, it makes you realize that professors don't just see you as students, but they actually go an extra mile and look out for you. I'm happy to hear that. Or could share your funding experience with us.
Yeah, so Vanderbilt is an expensive school. The aid initially is very generous. They give you, for my case, they gave me like 90 to 95% of the cost of attendance for the freshman year. And so like what I had left to pay with was like very minimal. But then what you need to understand is that as you progress through the school, each year the expenses increases, but then your funding stays the same. And so it's important to have, I'd say, there's a lot of internships you can apply to, but then it's also smart to have some funds back at home just so you're not caught lacking.
So that, as you are saying, for you, the actual funding that you got has remained the same, but the expenses have increased, so that it's better for people to have a backup plan. I like that. Kwabna, share your finances, with us.
Yeah, I think to Oreku's point, the initial funding stays the same across board, because I did 2 years for my master's program, but then as you go on, they would tag on a bit of, I guess, growth rate to the class fees, and also especially with insurance too, they would tag a bit more to it. Our insurance is not the same as regular people's insurance, so we have international students insurance, which is a bit more expensive. I think with the other students that are citizens attending Vanderbilt, they can actually even be on their mom or dad's insurance. With us, our insurance is actually significantly higher. So then you have to also plan that into it. But then there are also other opportunities where you can actually go actually work and find a job. I remember I worked in the library, and then that also kind of helped with my house and expenses for most of the time.
Okay. So just like other schools, you can work on campus to support yourself. And Oreku talked about internships. I'll come to that later on, but I want to hear Kweku on this. Kweku, how did the funding go?
So I mean, in terms of funding, it's pretty much the same. So what they give you in the first, master's was 2 years. So what they gave you in the first year kind of carries through the 2 years. But I mean, you can work on campus. Like I worked I worked from day one. I worked to recycle. I worked at the stadiums. I worked in the library. So you can work, but one of the things that you have to know, obviously, when giving an international student, is that you can only work 20 hours a week on campus. So even if you have the goal of, I'll work to kind of support myself while I was in school, you should know that there's a cap. You can only work 20 hours a week. And then in the summer, when you have your internship, hopefully you go for an internship that pays well, and then you can save some money. But don't necessarily also bank on that, because again, if you go for an internship, and this is a caveat, right? Because I've been through undergrad here in the US, I've been through a Vanderbilt, I've worked here. Most people think they can bank on getting an internship and saving the money. If you get an internship, great, like New York, Wall Street, tech in the Valley, it's expensive to live there. That's the other thing you have to know. So you spend they'll pay you well, but you spend also a good amount of that money for your upkeep. So just bear in mind that when you're making a plan for your financial plan, don't just say, oh, I'm going to get a Goldman Sachs internship and then I'll be paid tens of thousands of dollars and I'll be fine. No, don't. You'll be in New York and your rent is going to be $2,000 or $2,500 that you have to account for. So don't just make a straight line financial plan. Make room for bumps.
That's good. Let me throw in this question. You've all Oreku talked about internships, Kweku talked about internships. I want to ask you all, were you able to do, for Jonas and Oreku, you are still in school, have you done any internships through Vanderbilt? And then for Kweku and Kwabena, even though it was a master's program, I want to find out if you did internships through Vanderbilt. I think Kwabena, start for us.
Yeah, with internships, yes, I had the opportunity to do a few internships. I think in my first year, I got an internship through Vanderbilt, which wasn't a Vanderbilt alum. So it was a wealth management internship, which I did with her for the first full year. And then the second year, I got into another internship, which was a finance internship with an NGO, which I did mostly during the summer. So, I mean, in terms of internships, once you reach out to the alum network, and then you show your interest to do internships, and you have I guess you have the track record to also back it as well, they would take you on.
That's interesting. So you actually use the alum network and not necessarily the career services of the school.
I mean, I did go there to polish up my resume, but I actually didn't apply any jobs through the career service.
Oh, yeah. Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. I like that. Oreku, did you do or have you done any internships?
Yes, so I did research through the School of Engineering on campus. I did that during my second year. And so, yeah, I had that internship over the summer. And I was able to continue that internship even during school year. So I was able to balance like work and school. And yeah, that really helped. But then outside, I also had internships. I would say I did connect with a professor who used to work at Vanderbilt, and the internship I'm working on right now, I got through him. So yeah, even not through Vanderbilt, but then knowing someone in Vanderbilt still helped get me my internship right now.
I like what I'm hearing. So that for you as a school, the network is so big and you have easy access to alums, you have easy access to professors, and you're actually doing internships through a professor who was actually in the school, but is no longer there. But I'm thinking that his love for the school will let him help you just because you're there and you've reached out to him. That's really good to hear. Jonas, can you share what you've done with us? That is, if you've done anything.
I've also done research, and I basically got it through professor. I just emailed the person to say, hey, I'm interested in your research and blah blah blah, and then she just took me in. I've not really done any internship yet, but I've been working with the career center, and they organize they normally organize career fairs, which companies come around to sell out their companies to students and try and recruit them. So yeah, I think it's fairly a pretty straightforward, but if you are into it, and yeah.
Thanks. Kwaku, any experiences?
Yeah, so I interned with an asset management firm in Nashville through Vanderbilt. I think in my spring semester of my first year, and then for me during the summer, I had a chance to intern in Nigeria, which was through also applying through Vanderbilt because there's an African internship program. So those were the two internships I did at Vanderbilt, and then going into my final semester at Vanderbilt. I was able to secure an internship in New York and then convert it into a full-time role. So Vanderbilt helped me kind of position to get into New York and then for that internship and then convert it into a full-time role as well.
I'm happy to hear this. And especially for Jonas and Rick who are still in school, the fact that even during this COVID period, you've been able to do some research and do some internship, I'm happy. I mean, it tells of how strong the school is. And then for two of you, not to put you on the spot, but I need you to answer this for me. COVID came, some international students were stranded. How have you two managed? How did the school help you? Did you get any help? I mean, what happened? Tell us. Jonas, let me start with you.
Yeah, so COVID came last spring, I think, and whilst Vandy was generous enough to allow international students who couldn't go back home to stay on campus, or who could go back home but still felt they wouldn't be able to kind of study effectively to stay on campus, and they provided aid and resources to kind of support students throughout the whole process. Yeah. So that was my experience.
Okay, so you had help, which is good. Eriku.
Yeah, so COVID came last spring. I remember taking classes when school was like semi-shut and like everything had just transitioned online and it was hard. So I decided to take a leave of absence this year, even though the school was very generous. I know all my friends are still in the, and so yeah, I personally just decided to take a leave of absence, work on some other internships, and before like going back into school in person, because I prefer the in-person system over the online system, over the hybrid or online system. Yes. I'm pretty sure will resume fully in person next year. So yeah, that's when I plan on returning.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Now, I'm sure people who are thinking of Nashville and Tennessee are thinking that it's away from a lot of places. I want to find out, is there a large Ghanaian population at Vanderbilt? Kapna, maybe you can do that for us.
I mean, when I attended, which was 4 years ago, there wasn't really a large population of Ghanaians. I mean, there was a bit of a large population of African students as general. But in terms of Ghanaian population, I think we're about 5 or 6 students. I mean, the number has grew significantly after that, and probably Ulriko and Jonas can attest to that. But when I attended, I think there were about 5 or 6 students that were Ghanaian.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear. Kwekukabna came after you. Was it different?
No, not necessarily. So I think the thing with, well, when I mean, students from Ghana directly who grew up in Ghana there's not a lot of us. There are other students who are like Ghanaian, but then they were born in the US, or they were Ghanaian, but they happen to have lived in the US maybe in high school or something before coming. So there was a decent number. But in terms of, there was a bigger African population than, obviously there's Ghanaian. So at my time, I actually knew all the Ghanaians actually. So I talked to all of them still. So yeah, I mean, it helps in that sense. I mean, in that there's not a bigger community, but because a smaller community, you know everyone, you can kind of, even if they're in grad school, like I was in grad school, I knew the undergrad who was Adam Mode, like I still text Adam on Snapchat or whatever. So yeah, it helps that it's smaller in that sense, and it's very tight knit, so we know each other well.
That's good. Jonas and Ulriko, how is it now? Do we have more Ghanaians?
I remember coming into the school, there were only 2 of us, but then like Quick was saying, there's a bunch of other African American who are Ghanaian as well. And so now like relative to the school size, I would say yes, we are growing in number, but then there's still like work to be done. We still need more Ghanaians.
What about international students?
So I would say, our class size, my class size, I would say we're about 1,000, and don't quote me on this, but then I think the international students were maybe 100 of the 1,000, and so, and out of that we're just like 2 Ghanaians. So I'd say yes, we could do better, but then at least there's 1 or 2 of us.
All right, that's good to hear. Our time is getting close, and we have a few questions to answer. But before I go to the questions, I would want you to answer this for me. What do you guys do for fun at Vanderbilt? I think, Jonas, I'll start with you. And I'll give you 20 seconds each to answer that for me.
Yeah, basically there's a bunch, it's overwhelming. It's a lot of stuff to do. I personally, I'm involved in clubs, which I'm interested in. So finance club and other stuff. So it's based on your interest, you definitely find, I think there are over 500 clubs and organizations and stuff. So based on what you're interested in, you'll get something to do on campus for fun.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to do on Vanderbilt, and we're in Nashville. We're not far from downtown, so there's like a lot of bars down there you can go to when you're 21. On campus, there's like Jonas was saying, there's so many organizations, and even if you can't find an organization, you can always make up one. The school is rich, they'll fund that organization. There's Greek life, there's so much to do on campus as well. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, so that you can have fun. It's not just all about learning. To our graduate students, what did you guys do for fun?
So I mean, for fun, there's Vanderbilt is in Nashville, first of all. So Nashville has great music. It's popular for, you know, country music. If you're into like music and stuff like that, you know, a lot of the growing artists, they perform for free before they become big names. Like I remember Taylor Swift, ever before she became Taylor Swift, used to perform somewhere downtown. So, you know, you get to catch people like that, and you can always tell them, oh yeah, I saw Taylor Swift when she used to be in Nashville before everyone else did. So yeah, I mean, Nashville is a fun city.
Kwabena, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, to add to what they have already said, I mean, it's a fun city. If you like food, there's a lot of places to eat, both on campus, outside campus. There's a lot of places to things to do based on your interest. Nashville has grown exponentially since Kweku attended. It's grown like really, really big. Like I remember when I came here, there were like a few spots that you can actually go, but now the city's much open. Midtown is technically its own downtown now, and now we have a downtown, and around Vandy's its own fun campus. So just based on your interest, you can basically get into anything that you would want to. I would suggest don't get into anything dangerous, but have fun and then study. That's mostly it for us.
Okay, I'd want to answer a few questions here and then come back to you. What I want you guys to think about is, for the students who are watching and parents who are watching, if they are to choose Vanderbilt, I want you to think of the advice you'd give them. But as you do that, I want to answer a few questions from our audience. One question says, I'm interested to study in the US. How can I go about it? Another question says, can we have your contacts for further clarifications? Yes, I'm going to answer these two questions now. There's Education USA Accra, which is based at the US Embassy. There's Education USA Kumasi, which is based as ACE Consults at Asukwa in Kumasi. What we do is to take you through every single thing you need to know to study in the US. So we help you to research for schools. We help you to look for funding. We help you through the application process. We take you through visa orientation to be able to prepare you for your visas. And ultimately, when you're done, we take you through pre-departure orientation to be able to study in the US. And as Jonas said, he worked with Auntie Bernice in Accra. Education USA Kumasi worked with Kwabena and Kweku, and we are so proud of them. Oreku, I'm sure you found your way. You went to Presec, isn't it? And you found your way. But we are happy to work with everybody. So as you are seeing, the three of them who've had such good experiences and ultimately have been to Vanderbilt, you can tell that any help you need in studying in the US, we are here to help you. For contact details, I'd want you to go to the Education USA website, which is educationusa, one word, .state.gov. educationusa.state.gov. And when you get there, look for Education USA Accra or look for Education USA Kumasi to be able to get our contact details so that you can reach out to us. Another question I have here is, if a student is awarded a scholarship, what other requirements are needed to be able to get to the university? If you are awarded a scholarship, the other requirements, even though you are awarded a scholarship, if it's a full scholarship, that's perfect. But if it's not, you actually have to prove that whatever is left that you have to pay, you have enough finances to be able to pay that. And if, aside the finances, most of the time you'd have to apply for your visa to be able to go to the US. So you need to put all your documents together, and that does not just finances, but you look at your academics, all the academics, and then every other supporting document you need to be able to prove that you go and study in the US and come back to Ghana and make this country great. So Once you have a scholarship, those are the other things you need to be able to get to the university in the US. So it's what qualifies a Ghanaian student to study outside Ghana with a scholarship. All of them, I mean, Kweku, Kwabna, Oreku, Jonas have shared their different experiences as to how they got to Vanderbilt with funding. And predominantly, when you come back to watch this session, you will know it. But let me sum it up for you. For you to be able to get a scholarship is not automatic. That's one thing you need to know. But most schools will look out for your academics. They'll look out for your WASI results, your WASI transcripts. If you've already done a first degree, they'll look out for your transcript from your first degree. They'll look out for your transcripts for a master's program if you want to do a PhD program. So all the academics are critical. Some schools would ask for GRE, GMAT, SAT, TOEFL, IELTS. It depends on the school you're applying to. But as they all emphasize, most of the schools want to know how unique you are as a person. So they would ask for your essays, and they would ask for your transcripts and recommendations from your different schools or institutions. So these things kind of help you to be able to build a strong profile for yourself as you apply to the schools. And most of them would also ask you to get recommendations from your teachers. And then aside your recommendations, I've talked about the essays. Just that for graduate schools, the essays are called statements of purpose. So when you see the statements of purpose, you won't get confused. So basically, I'm thinking that I've answered most of the questions here. But coming back to our wonderful panelists who've made this day so exciting, making us feel we all need to go back to Vanderbilt. In fact, somebody asked the question that when they saw the poster, that why aren't there any ladies at Vanderbilt? Answer that before. One of you should answer that before we go to the final question. I mean, the wrap-up question for all of us. Oreko, are there any ladies at the school?
Well, I mean, there are ladies at the school, but then Ghanaian, I don't remember there being any female Ghanaian students admitted in a while. But then I'm sure through the records there have been some. I don't think they're sexist or anything. They admit more women. I think through the stats show that they even admit more women than men now. So yeah.
Okay, so there are women in the school. That's the first thing. Second thing, you think they admit more women even than men. Just that you've not seen Ghanaian female students during your undergraduate program. Were there any Ghanaian ladies?
Yes, I mean there are women. I mean, actually, the stats, like Oreku said, I mean, there's in the recent class they have 51% women and then 49% men. So it's there are Ghanaian women. There was I had friends in business school who were Ghanaian as well. So if you're Ghanaian female, just seeing us shouldn't put you off. It should actually encourage you to apply because there's 51% of the population of Vanderbilt now is female. So you have a higher chance of getting in than any of us ever did.
That's really comforting, very comforting. All right, in the shortest possible way, kindly share any advice you have for parents and any advice you have for students. I'd want to start with Jonas.
My advice would be to start early, start the process really, really early, and take your time, ask questions, reach out to people and ask them for help. And if you do get in and your aid is not that great, bargain and plead, because at that time they are more willing to kind of tweak it a little for you. But if you confirm your spot, that's where it gets a little complicated. So that would be my advice for
Eric, let me come to you.
Advice to students, parents, once you get in, classes are challenging, so be prepared to study, but then also be prepared to have fun as well, because friends are also very important.
Partner.
I mean, my advice to students would be, I mean, of course, start early. Don't be like me that waited to apply to 3 schools. Start early. Once you get in, study hard, network a lot, because I mean, the school has a broad, diverse base, and you never know who you meet that, you know, is someone's important son or daughter that can actually help you to the next step. And then also in terms of it being an investment, it's actually a really great investment, because after you're done, the job opportunities that you can get are countless, even the ones in Nashville itself. As I said earlier, Nashville has grown exponentially so much that even I think Amazon just came here last year, so that is also increasing as well.
That's good. Very cool.
Yeah, so for me, my advice to anyone applying is obviously get in early, make sure you stay on point in terms of your application package and stuff. And once you get into the school, this is my personal advice, because I noticed this from a lot of Ghanaian students. Coming in from Ghana, you know, we tend to be very modest. But when you get into Vanderbilt, it's such a great school that it has a ton of resources. So please, whether you're paying for it or you're out of pocket or whatever it might be, even if you're getting 100% scholarship, make sure you're using the resources and on campus, the network, because that's where you're going to. That's where ultimately you're spending your 4 years for, whether it's 4 years or 2 years. So do not be modest about how you go about, pursuing, like, whether it's the alumni network. Like, trust me, you find people within that network that do incredible stuff out there that they would be willing to jump on the phone with you 10, 15, 20 minutes just to give you advice. I don't know which major I want to go in. Get on the phone with somebody. They will tell you, what their experiences are, what they think of what's happening out there in the real world, where they think their future might go. We all don't know where the future is going to be, but at least they're in a position where they can give you advice that, trust me, if you listen to the advice and it pays off, it really does pay off.
Thank you all so much. You've really represented your school so well that I'm sure most people are thinking, hey, it's going to be Vandy for me. To all our wonderful audience who've been joining us, we want to say thank you to you. As I said earlier, there are 2 Education USA centers in Ghana. There's Education USA Accra, which is based at the US Embassy. There's Education USA Kumasi, which is based as AC Consult at Asokwa. We are happy to see all of you and work with you. And if you need more information, you can go to educationusa.state, STATE.gov. Next 2 weeks, we come back your way with another wonderful session at 5 p.m. See you all, and thank you very much. Have a good evening.